Whenever Hollywood comes to Scotland, it feels like they just set up camp in Glasgow. Whether it's the latest Batman or the new Indiana Jones movie, nothing seems to come north of the Central Belt. For whatever reason, the northeast of Scotland's always overlooked when it comes to making movies, with the possible exception of Local Hero, which came out 40 odd years ago and starred a very young Peter Capaldi. And the equally brilliant, if a little bit sweary, One Day Removals. I'll link to that below, but I'll warn you now, it's not for kids. Anyway, Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire was put firmly on the map last year when Tetris came out. It was directed by Jon S Baird. He's the guy behind Filth and the Stan and Laurel movie. And more importantly, he's become something of an ambassador for the northeast of Scotland. There was a lot of excitement because this was firstly filmed during the pandemic and secondly starred Taron Egerton, the guy who played Elton John in Rocket Man.
I don't get it.
So like I said, this all happened at the height of the pandemic. Production on Tetris came to Aberdeen. Now by this point I think some of the internal scenes and some of the other bits and bobs had been filmed, but for the shots where they wanted the buildings that resembled Russian architecture, Hollywood turned up to Aberdeen, and despite all the regulations and rules about social distancing and gathering in public, everyone did just that. Everyone gathered in public to watch the cameras and try and catch a glimpse of Taron Egerton. I mean, this was on the news.
And finally, film director Jon S Baird says it's a dream come true to film part of his new movie in his home city. Aberdeen is playing host to Hollywood stars all week as it doubles for Soviet Russia in a film about the classic video game Tetris.
I dreamed to be a filmmaker, but it was a dream on top of that to bring a film to Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire back home to really sort of kickstart interest in the area as a film location. Yeah, we've found that there's a couple of buildings up in Aberdeen that have been ideal to double for that period in Russian history.
This is probably one of the easier filming locations to find. Heading away from the airport, you'll actually see this on the brow of the hill. There's the old Apex offices, which are for let, by the way. You can actually rent these out. Imagine taking clients to your office and saying, hey, they filmed a big budget Apple movie here. Let's scrub that. Imagine just being able to tell a client they filmed the Tetris movie here. Do you think he's maybe graffitied the toilet wall? Taron was here. How do you get in now and find out? So the first place I headed to in the van was Dice. If you've ever flown into Aberdeen, you've been to Dice. The airport's here. A lot of the oil and gas service companies are based out here. And this is exactly where the shots of Henk Rogers heading to Nintendo were filmed.
Great. Because you're not gonna believe where I was yesterday.
He walks into the Apex building, aka Nintendo HQ, and proudly proclaims,
Henk Rogers, Bulletproof Software. I have a meeting with Hiroshi Yamauchi, your CEO.
So yeah, you can actually rent floor space in the Apex building. You could be working in Nintendo HQ, which isn't really Nintendo HQ at all. You know, I absolutely love the idea that Henk Rogers just pulled up to try and meet Nintendo and managed to pull it off. Don't know how much that's real though.
Not too bad.
For the next filming location, it was back into the city centre, and a bit of an unlikely place really for a big Hollywood movie to be filmed. This is a car park on West North Street, just opposite Aberdeen College, or Nest Hall as it's known these days. And this is where filming took place for, well, it's the scene where Alexei, the inventor of Tetris, he's playing tennis with his kids. Now, this is important because the name Tetris came from his love of the blocks and a bit of the word tennis. This is the bit where the KGB tried to scare him off and warn him that doing a deal with Henk Rogers really isn't going to work out for the best. yeah, the filmmakers genuinely wanted to find somewhere that resembled Soviet Russia. They came to Aberdeen.
День зимой. Впечатляюще. Валентин Трифонов, Центральный комитет Коммунистической партии. Решил лично познакомиться с человеком, благодаря которому чуть не распался Советский Союз. Поздравления. Вы их заслужили. Ну, какая упадет быстрее? Ну!
Никакая!
Ага!
In the film, you see a bit of nest call, that's the big building here. The high-rise that they drop the coins from, well, they shot part of that in Seamount Court, but the interior scenes are just down the street in Greg Court, where I'm going to head to just now. So 2 high-rises are used for Tetris. For the exterior shots, it's Seamount Court on top of the car park. For the interior shots, it's basically just 20 yards down the street to Greg Court in Gerrard Street, which is the access road. That's where the car chase starts from. When the KGB are told that Henk Rogers is heading to the airport and they need to get a shift on, although I don't think, with it being a dead-end street, Gerrard Street, they get very far.
Что вы делаете? Что происходит?
Now, the next filming location, this is possibly my favourite one of all because this is really close to where I live. The Elorg building, this is the company that he has to go and get into to meet Alexei, to try and do the deals, to buy the rights to Tetris. This is filmed at a building owned by the University of Aberdeen. This is their zoology building, which it turns out is an actual museum you can go and visit during the week. There's no admission charge, and I think it's a bit of a hidden gem because nobody seems to know about it, but you can literally pull up to this building and go and have a nosy around inside. Now, when I did the filming for this, it was shut because it was just after Christmas and New Year. But during the week, you can go and have a look around and maybe see if you can do a deal on Tetris.
Mr. Rogers, this is not America. Entering a government structure without invite is highly illegal.
Sasha, I didn't travel 5,000 miles to be stopped by a door.
Now, as much as I bemoaned Glasgow earlier on, production did head to the west coast. Paisley Road West was used, some of the old co-op buildings on Morrison Street, that doubled for 80s Moscow, and some of the empty offices in Tradeston were used for filming scenes for the movie as well. Prestwick Airport was used for the scene when Henk and Alexei are trying to flee back to America.
What's your next flight out? Let's go.
Now boarding. Please proceed to the gate.
Parliament Square in Edinburgh became part of the exterior shot of the Kremlin, although I keep looking back and trying to work out which bits, and I never can. And just as I was preparing to wrap this all up, Tetris became newsworthy once again.
Willis Gibson has broken Tetris.
It's like a hobby and just a game I play.
An understatement for the Stillwater Junior High student who recently became the first person to ever crash an original Nintendo Tetris game at level 157, with the total score maxed out at 999,999.
So there we go, nearly 40 years old, and Tetris remains as relevant and popular as always. That is it. That is how easy it is to find some of the filming locations for the Tetris movie. Thanks as always for watching. I'll be back out and about soon. For now, I think I'm off to watch Tetris.